Hi, everyone. I'm DeFi Dad. This is episode 21 of Yield TV. Okay, it is Monday, October 26th, and I've got two special guests today. So first, we're going to be talking with Valentin Mihov about what happened with this flash loan attack on harvest.finance. And then we're going to talk more generally about DeFi and DeFi portfolios with Adam Blumberg from Interaxis. So guys, thanks for joining me. How are you doing today?
Great. Thank you for having me.
We're doing good. Thanks for having us, man. Good day.
Yeah, it's a party today. We get three of us. This is really fun. So, Valentin, I guess not to just have to put you on the spot because this only happened like 12 hours ago. And frankly, I was trying to sift through what exactly happened with Harvest because I woke up overnight and saw this and was like, whoa, what happened? Can you walk us through in layman's terms what happened with Harvest and kind of like what have we learned since the flash loan attack?
So what happened today was that somebody managed to exploit the Harvest protocol and drain about $24 million out of it. And the way the attack worked was pretty much exploiting the way the protocol is calculating when you have shares in the protocol. So when you put money inside Harvest, it's going to give you shares that represent what amount of the whole pool your contribution is, basically. And then when you withdraw, you say, okay, I want to burn my shares. I want to get money back. So the attacker managed to craft a special contract that it allowed him to manipulate the price of Tether on Curve, deposit funds on the Harvest contract, then manipulate the price again, and that pretty much broke the logic that is calculating how much Tether you can withdraw with your shares. So then he was able to withdraw more Tether because the price of Tether became lower, and he managed to do this many times. So every such cycle managed to get him $500,000 of profit, and he managed to do this many times. So in total, he managed to drain $24 million out of the protocol.
So what happened then was there's a manipulation of the Oracle price for Tether, right? That's what we're there. When you broke this down in your tweet, which actually I should just pull up here, they manipulate the price. Then you have an inflated asset price. Then you're selling that for profit, which I think like you had called out or someone had, like, we're talking like less than 1% inflating that price, but these are large sums of money. So when you're playing the arbitrage game here, I mean, you're walking away with a humongous amount of money, and then they're repeating that. They're basically rinsing and repeating over and over again.
Yeah. So we are talking about depositing amounts like $60 million. So even 1% of that is, you can see it's like $500,000. It's actually less than 1%. So he managed to get a hold on such funds using a flash loan, which is, many people say that, oh, flash loans are bad and all that. But I mean, if you don't use flash loans, then you just need $50 million and you can execute pretty much the same attack. So right. The problem is not in the flash loans. The problem, in essence, and I mean, today I've been spending most of the day just, analyzing the contracts and trying to figure out, like, okay, what is like the real solution behind this?
Right, right.
And I think actually the core problem comes down to how this share price is calculated within the protocol. And in this particular case, for this particular vote, because it involves a couple of stable coins like Tether, USDC, DAI, and all these, and then these stable coins are converted to this complex basket of coins, which is the curve pool.
Yeah, the curve Y pool, right? That's the
yeah.
one with for anyone who's unaware, that's USDC, DAI, Tether, and True USD. Those four tokens.
So when you have this complex system where you have these four assets and you need to calculate what is your share price, actually it becomes not very trivial in order to do it in a way that's robust against such kind of manipulations. And someone brought up an interesting question out of the discussion. Why votes are not vulnerable, or are they vulnerable to such kind of attack? Because in Y votes, there is actually a strategy that allows you to deposit DAI, and then it gets converted to the Y pool tokens, and it's using to farm curve. And when I look through their contracts, they actually use a different mechanism for calculating this share price that is not susceptible to such kind of market fluctuations. So it actually comes down to how this share price is being calculated. And I would say that for simple votes that don't involve such kind of multiple assets being converted around, this is not a problem, because you deposit some kind of, I don't know, you deposit, let's say, Bitcoin, or like wrapped Bitcoin, and it's only wrapped Bitcoin in the vault, all that it is. So it's very easy to calculate your share price. How much is it? In this particular case, though, it's not so simple. And in Y vote, they used a different approach that is just not prone to this kind of attack. So it's not even coming down so much to Oracle and whether the Oracle is good or bad or whatever. It actually comes down to this calculation and how it's done.
Do we know whether this is like a good actor or a bad actor? Like, do we know anything about who might have done it? Like, I haven't read anything in terms of rumors, but I did see a tweet from the Harvest Finance team. It was it sounded like they had like an inkling of who it was. It said something like it was like potentially a well-known member of the community. Anyways, I don't know how to interpret any of that. Like, how do you think about it?
I really don't think they know who it is. I mean, I'm not sure how exactly they're going to figure it out, because this address that executed the attack, he got Ethereum for the transaction fees from a Tornado Cash. So there is no link there. There is no centralized exchange that could reveal identity for a withdrawal or something like that. Also, the guys from Rand BTC, they said that he used the VPN when he was using the Rand BTC in order to go back into Bitcoin. So I really don't know how they can figure this out. Like, I haven't seen any claims about like a trace, some kind of a trace that could.
Yeah, I think that was what stuck out to me, that I've been surprised hasn't been used or maybe talked about by other flash loan attacks, is, you know, they use some really obvious tools to cover their tracks, Tornado Cash being one. And then when you use the Ren bridge, it unintentionally acts like a mixer, because you're coming or going from an Ethereum or Bitcoin address. And so anyways, the bridge unintentionally acts as a mixer, and it's clever. I mean, I am not applauding what this person did, but I saw that and was like, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. Like, why didn't someone do that previously?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure why he actually cashed out in Bitcoin. I guess because of the sheer amount of funds. Actually, the hack could be much bigger. I think the estimated amount of the hack could be $400 million. But the attacker just decided to stop at 24 million. I don't know why. Maybe he was just figuring out, okay, that's enough.
Thankfully, they stopped. Yeah. I don't know either.
But the fact is, I'm not sure you're able to really mix up $24 million through Tornado Cash at the moment. So maybe Bitcoin network has better mixing capabilities than Ethereum at the moment.
I'm guessing, right, with all that liquidity in the Bitcoin network, maybe that's the idea. What do you think is a lesson to take from any of this? Like, that's something, when I saw all of this, I was thinking about, like, what are the red flags? Like were we supposed to anticipate this as a user? And I think the clear answer is many of us cannot read smart contracts to like even discern if there's any sort of vulnerability. And then going beyond that, I think it might have been Spencer Noon or someone put out a tweet about when you look at, like, this project had a lot of total value locked. It had been around for, let's say, a longer time in the DeFi space, at least a number of months, and they'd been through multiple audits. You look at all of that, and that is not a recipe to just blindly trust. You should never blindly trust any protocol or team, but those are definitely promising signs. So I've been sort of struggling with, like, well, what is the lesson in all of this? What are we just being smacked in the face again and being reminded that, you must always be prepared to lose all funds in many of the different protocols that are still early?
I think that's correct. I mean, from my point of view, I always looked at Harvest as one of the safer protocols out there. I think this is pretty much the second such kind of exploit that happens on a protocol that's been around for a long time, has been audited. Like the last such kind of attack that happened on a similar kind of situation was with the Fulcrum, like on the BZX protocol.
Right.
I think that was at the beginning of the year. And actually there were like multiple attacks there with flash loans. So personally, I've been, considering Harvest as one of the safer ones because of the audits and everything. It couldn't become better than this. But also we need to keep in mind that it's a complex protocol. And one of the common things between the two hacks, between BZX and this one, is that we are talking about some complicated system. And I mean, I guess we need some time until things stabilize in more complicated systems, until they become bulletproof and more safe.
Yeah, and we'll know a lot more in the next 24 hours. I think one of the things that I've been doing as I've seen multiple flash loan attacks happen over the last like 6 to 12 months is I just don't want to jump to conclusions. I'm obviously very concerned by this. I guess I'm fortunate that I didn't have funds in there, and I'm very empathetic to anyone who did and had a scare overnight, and anyone who's just wanting to know like answers to what happened. But I am following. You can follow at harvest_finance. There's supposedly a report that will come out in the next, something like, it said 16 hours or 12 hours. Another thing too is they have a Discord group. So that's another place, like, I would temper your judgment when you hop into a Discord group, especially in crypto. You can find some very vulgar people who are saying all sorts of crazy stuff, but I listen carefully to the team and basically want to like hear from them what's going on. Do you have any thoughts though on, before this happened, Chris Black, who's a well-known DeFi researcher, he puts out lots of great content. He does this show called The Trust Bubble, and he's basically always trying to like question and make sure that people are not trusting and allowing like teams to centralize and have too much control. So anyways, he had been reading through one of their audits, and it just seemed like there's more control with the admin keys than there should be. Like, anyways, I won't even try to explain it. Can you explain what that vulnerability is, like in terms of the absence of a time lock? Like, do they have a multi-sig in place? And if they don't, like, why does that matter?
So the main concerns that Chris raised was that the admin key is not multi-sig, and also the time lock that is protecting some of the more important parts of the contract is only 12 hours, which could be very short period of time in many cases. And to be honest, I've been also voicing my concerns over that. On the other hand, this exploit had nothing to do with that. So it's a completely different issue.
Right.
The concerns that Chris had, and probably have still, is that it's possible for the team to decide to do something funky, pool funds or anything like this. I think that's a valid concern. Like these things, you should don't trust but verify. So these are valid concerns, and I think projects should take such concerns seriously. One of the things that I don't like about this whole situation with these admin keys and the time walk was the response from Harvest. That was not really like, yeah, we'll look into ways to improve it, but more like, well, it's $1 billion. Who is going to steal that amount of money? It's like too much or something like that, which is not really like a good response to that, in my opinion.
Statement, like, oh, it's too much money for someone to steal. It'll never happen. It always happens. If there's an exploit, it will always eventually take place, and it's a scary thing.
But this is like, his concerns were mostly about an anonymous team potentially try to pull off some kind of a rug pull, which, I mean, the protocol is not like they can pull the funds immediately and run away with them. It's not like this. It's just the time walk is too short. So maybe people are not going to have enough time in order to pull out their funds if something bad happens. So yeah, I mean, such kind of concern. So it's not like it's a complete rug pull.
Yeah, cool. Well, Valentin, I guess before we let you go, any other like key takeaways from any of this? I think we covered how it happened, why it matters, of course, even like some grander context that Chris thankfully brought to the forefront about the admin keys. And those are things too. I'll try to link those in the when this goes up for playback on YouTube. I'll try to link all of that. I also want to link your Twitter thread, which very like candidly explains, what happened, like piece by piece, like the amount of like money that was used in this arbitrage and how it was like used in sort of a rinse and repeat type fashion. But anyways, anything else that you think people should know about this?
Well, my general observation of the market right now is that as the yields are coming down from the summer, people are starting to get more and more are starting to take more and more risk. They try to chase the biggest yield, but I think people need to keep in mind that as the risk increases, we are going to encounter such kind of problems. So yeah, I guess a good takeaway is like, be careful where you put your money. Don't put everything in one basket. Generally, this kind of vaults are something that is relatively new. It's getting better. That's no question about it.
Yeah.
So I think vaults as a concept is going to stay here. It's going to be used going forward. But yeah, I mean, in Y vaults, there's been a problem that was uncovered like maybe 2 weeks ago that didn't lead to any exploit, but I think it was quite critical. They managed to fix it in time. So issues are popping up still. So I think we need to be a little cautious with vaults for now. And as the time goes, they're going to become more secure. That's for sure.
I think about my portfolio in DeFi the way that I would think about having like broad exposure to a market, except I don't just think about the asset, I think about the platform as well. And so I generally, it's like a really simple rule for me to follow. Do I have enough money in any single application where if the application failed and I lost all that money, I would be financially ruined, or like basically enough so that this would be something I could not overcome or recover from? And so that's something I think as people become more and more acquainted with all these new DeFi applications, like don't just think about exposure to the asset, think about exposure to the application or the smart contracts in those.
Yeah.
But Valentin, thanks so much for your time. This is really great. Nice to finally meet you too. I really appreciate you always have really interesting insights to share, and would love to have you back sometime.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much, man. Thanks for calling. He's calling in from Bulgaria too. It's late there. So I appreciate you. Have a great night, and we'll continue here with Adam. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. So Adam, we can now talk more generally, I guess, about like the state of the DeFi markets. But I think, like, why don't we get started with the usuals? Like, just in case folks don't know who you are, if they don't know what Interaxis is, do you want to give some background on like how you got involved in the crypto space and DeFi?
Sure. We are, my partner Ron and I were actually financial advisors. So we have an RIA here in Texas, and we got involved. When I say involved, I started purchasing some cryptocurrency back in 2017. And my joke is, or my story that sometimes ends up being funny and sometimes not so funny, is unfortunately my house flooded in Hurricane Harvey that we had here in Houston, and I ended up
laughing. This is not this. I wasn't laughing at the.
You're welcome to laugh at it.
Like, wow, thanks for laughing at my sorrow.
Yeah, it was all. That's my stuff. That's my life that floated away, and molded and everything. But I ended up selling the house and getting a bunch of insurance money, and some of that ended up in crypto, and which I did not at the time tell my wife right away, but I was trading it, on my phone like you did at that time, and it was 24/7. And there was a time where she asked me if I was having an affair, and I was like, "Well, why would you think I'm having an affair?" She goes, "Well, you go around for like 30 minutes the other day. You were in the bedroom. You said you were going to change clothes, and you were up there for 30 minutes." And what happened was I had been on Binance or something trying to trade. And trying to get the trade in. And if you remember, like 3.5 years ago, when you're trying to trade on your phone, it was a mess. Anyway, so there was actually something in my head. I was like, well, I was thinking, should I tell her I'm having an affair? Like, is that easier to get out of than no? I took our insurance money and I plunked it into this fake internet money, and that's what I'm investing in.
What year was it?
There's no therapy for that. Like, there's no therapy that gets you out of that.
What year was that?
That was late 2017.
Yeah.
I was profiting. That's the good part. But I told her what I was doing, and she. Then I went down the rabbit hole and learned crypto, Bitcoin, DeFi, and she's like, "I've never seen you so excited to learn anything like this." I mean, this was like 2, 3 in the morning. I was still up, watching videos and learning. So here early 2019, DeFi started to get popular. We got excited about it, started speaking about it because, conferences wanted a financial advisor to talk about it. There weren't very many of us. There were like 3 of us, Tyrone is one, and us, and maybe 3 others in the country that would even talk about crypto as financial advisors. And then late last year, we launched our YouTube channel to get it, on the whiteboard here and just explain things the same way we explain any other financial concept. And we're not techies, and we're not trading, and we're not telling you Bitcoin's going to go to 100,000 or anything. It's just, we're going to explain to you how it works. And as DeFi has gotten a little more complex, as we talk about things like composability, like we were just talking about, we have to explain how it all works in order for people to feel comfortable enough to actually put their money down. Put their money into it and feel comfortable using it and understanding how it works. And once they get there, then they can start to understand how this new economic system works, this new financial system might take hold, or how it might feed into the current one. So what we've done now is we've recently launched courses for financial advisors. So we want financial advisors to understand this. Now, naturally, they've gotten more questions lately as crypto's had a nice little run here. They've gotten more questions recently about cryptocurrency. And so that has caused quite a bit more advisors that are interested in learning about crypto, DeFi, digital assets, Of course, the summer of DeFi was helpful as well in getting advisors to get questions from their clients about it. So here we are. Now we're just trying to help people learn about it.
Adam, so how is business then? Like, are you seeing more folks trickle into this space? Like, are you seeing more interest from your clients just in light of the macroeconomic conditions that we're all living through?
You know what? It's not so much interest in terms of like, hey, here's my money. It's more interest in terms of I have questions. Right. Tell me about it. You know, last year I wasn't ready. Last year Bitcoin was at a certain level. You know, we didn't have COVID. We didn't have the market like it is. I wasn't unsure about the overall economy. Now I'm a little unsure. So tell me about this. And so we're starting to have those conversations, and we have to understand, and financial advisors have to understand how to have those conversations beyond just Bitcoin go up, right? How does this fit into a greater financial ecosystem? Where is it going to go? So why, as an advisor, does it make sense for me to learn much more about it than I can just put my client's money into Bitcoin or into ETH and that's it? Why does it make sense for me to learn more about this than just that little piece?
Adam, what are some of the questions that they're asking then? Like, where do you see light bulbs going off, and they're starting to, like, you know, connect the dots and want to, like, stick around and actually get exposure to the crypto markets?
Well, in the summer, it was actually people hearing about this DeFi thing where people were making, you know, 50, 60, 80, 90% returns. How do I get involved? What do I do? And in all honesty, a lot of them, you know, I said, you're not ready. Like, you don't even understand a wallet yet. We got a long way to go,
Right.
because you have to feel comfortable with this. And I'm certainly not going to advise you to go into something where you might lose your money, not because there's a hack or not because the value goes down, but simply because you miss a letter on a wallet address.
Yeah.
Right? There's a big technical hurdle to go over. More so, you know, just as much as a financial hurdle to go over. So that spurred quite a bit of conversation, because there were advisors and other clients reaching out going, can you tell me what DeFi is? We keep hearing about it now, and we hear about these great returns. Can you tell me what it is? And we always say, we have to start by telling you about blockchain. We got to tell you about Bitcoin, how it gave us blockchain, how it got to smart contracts and ETH. And then once you get those basics, then we can go farther and explain, now we're building smart contracts on top of blockchain, and there's composability. But the purpose of it is really this decentralized finance network, the idea of peer-to-peer. And once you get the idea of peer-to-peer without a bank, then the light bulb really goes off. That's when they go, oh, you mean I can lend money to someone somewhere else in the world, and it can be relatively safe, and I don't have to go through a bank? Yep, that's exactly what you can do.
Right? Adam, are these people that you're describing, like the interest that you saw surging over the summer, are these folks that were totally new to crypto? Like, they had no Bitcoin exposure or ETH or anything?
Yeah, it was, for the most, it wasn't like someone was heavily into Bitcoin and then said, oh, I want to learn about ETH, or I want to learn about DeFi.
Wow.
It was people who are like, you know, just they had probably kind of looked into it a little bit, and then they said, okay, there's, you know, there's Bitcoin, which has just been kind of hovering right here, right? It's just kind of creeping along, but this DeFi thing, people are making crazy money. How do I get into that? Because of course it's always, how do I get into that, right? Maybe they missed out on the Robinhood thing. Like, maybe they missed out on buying Tesla when it went down to, you know, $300 and riding it up or something. So they said, what's the next thing I can do? And the next thing I can do is, these guys are making crazy money on this DeFi thing, and I don't understand it. So what is it? Can you tell me about it? But it's not, I didn't see that it was necessarily, from my experience, it wasn't a lot of Bitcoin or crypto people that were going, now I'm ready to do this. It was just people that were following where there was to earn more money, you know, investing, speculating, whatever it is, towards the end of the summer up until now. And this was one of the places that they had heard of. And so that drummed up some interest. Then, of course, things start to fall and they go, okay, well, now I'm not so interested anymore. And then Bitcoin and ETH start heading up, and now they're interested again, but for different reasons, right? Now they're interested in, okay, let me just hold some tokens, and eventually we'll get this kind of happy medium where you can do both. You can hold some, you can have some investments. And so kind of what we're working on is how do you look at some of the DeFi tokens and some of the protocols as an investment? How are you looking at what the value might be there? What is the value of Uni tokens, right? What is the value of Aave tokens? Where do they accrue value? Because now we can start maybe looking at some of these as we would look at any other investment you would make, right? Do they accrue value? Is there a governance portion? Is there a utility portion? And then how can we extrapolate the value based on where we think the usage will be in the next 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, the same way you would do with any company, right? You try to extrapolate what the value is today based on how much money you think will come in the door in the next 1, 2, and 3 years. So we can start to do that because they're with so many of them, we've gotten past the speculative phase, right? And there's actual use cases. So the more use cases we find and the more money coming in from outside our current kind of echo chamber, then the more you can extrapolate some sort of value in several of the tokens and protocols.
Which of the DeFi use cases are you finding are the most interesting to those that are your clients or potential clients?
There's a difference, obviously, between interesting from the perspective of I want to put my money into it and interesting from the perspective of it's just interesting, right? AMMs are really interesting to people, right? Aave, something where they can lend money is really interesting to people because they hadn't thought of it this way. It's kind of like, oh, I can actually lend money out, or I can borrow money using these other assets as collateral, using using crypto assets as collateral. This is really cool. Or I can lend money to someone somewhere else in the world. That's really interesting. Stable coins are really interesting to people because there is so much macro talk of what's happening with the dollar and the euro and everything. So then you go, okay, now there's a crypto version of it. And of course, last year and early this year, you had talk of Libra and that stable coin potential. So those are interesting to people from the perspective of just learning. It's really cool for people to see the light bulb go off when you go, here's what an automated market maker is. And at some point they go, oh, well, now I get it. Like I get you move from Uniswap to like Balancer to Curve, and you go, I understand not only originally it was just the yield generation portion of it. Then you go, I understand why there's a reason for this. Like I totally get why there's a need for something like Curve. And then when you start going, okay, wait a minute, because I talk to people that are all over the world, right? And I have people that are honestly doing some work for me, some either web design or blog writing or something, and I'm paying them in crypto. But based on where they are in the world, they might want a different stable coin, or they might want a different token.
Right.
That's where something you look at, you start to go, okay, what are the use cases? And Curve makes sense because if I have a bunch of, of USDC in my wallet, but I know this person wants Tether, well, it's a very efficient way for me to go from $1 denominated token to another.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a real use case. I'm not doing it because I want to earn more yield on one of them. I'm doing it because one person wants to be paid in one token and one person wants to be paid in another. Right. And they both should be worth roughly $1. So why it shouldn't be all that difficult to do. And Curve is the platform to do it. And then you got to roll back and go, oh, but by the way, it's decentralized. There's no bank. Curve isn't a bank. Everyone has to put their money in. Everyone has to hold their money there. Well, now you got to create an incentive structure to get people to do that. Well, what's the incentive structure? They get a piece of every transaction. How do they do that? And we start rolling things back, and then you see how the whole system is built, right? And then you go, by the way, did you know the current financial system is kind of like this? It's just some really powerful people at the top that get all the money. This is, we brought it all the way down and let everyone get the money. So the incentive structures that have to be built are so interesting to people that then they can build on top of that and go, now I understand where some of the value is. So it's not as much anymore. Like the yield farming and everything got people thinking about it because they saw these incredible yields, and it got them to ask the question. And now they have to go, why does this even exist? And once we explain it, they go, I totally understand that now. I'm rolling it back and I'm getting why it even exists, why we had to build all this. And the talk you just had about harvest finance and all that is, we have to have those conversations about the extreme composability in DeFi can sometimes be a little bit dangerous, right? It's this ability of one platform on top of another, on top of another, on top of another. And you go, okay, I invested in this top one, but you have to understand what can topple it every place along the way. So if there's an oracle under here, and you know, and you figure out someone can attack the oracle, then you go, oh, well, now I understand why oracles are so important, right? That's why Chainlink and Pillar and Band are so important, right? Like we need those to inform the price. That's why they can't be built. So something like Harvest, while it's sad that people potentially lost money, and good that they didn't take everything out, it allows you to go to make it a learning experience and go, here's why the oracle is so important. Here's why decentralized this is so important in the markets. And then we can kind of relate it to the traditional markets and go, here's what's happening in the traditional markets. And here's the corollary in the decentralized market, and why one is better or worse than the other. And we can have those discussions now. And there's so much happening in the world economy that it's actually a great time to talk about it, and kind of a sad time to talk about it, but a great time to go, okay, now is the time to learn this stuff and think about where your finances are going to be in the future.
I found that some of the people that have been the most upset about something going to miss in DeFi, not like the harvest finance exploit here, but just in general, like, whoa, why do I have to, before I guess like Zaps existed with Zapper, like, you had to come up with like a 50-50 provision for liquidity that you would add to Uniswap. Well, folks would ask like, why is it this way? And you're like, well, you're playing with a lot of like monetary primitives. You're playing with a lot of mechanisms that are mirroring what works in legacy finance, but instead of you having to go out and get all sorts of licensing and have large sums of money to participate, you're just able to participate with whatever minimal amount of money connecting your Ethereum wallet. And that's awesome. But at the same time, like you said, it comes with a lot of power. It comes with a lot of accountability, responsibility. And I think it's really important that, like, I know it doesn't help adoption that we're talking about everyone having to learn so much just to use this stuff. But yeah, like if you want to participate and use some of the most obvious use cases, you can deposit stable coins into a Y Vault, or you can, download the Argent wallet and use all sorts of really awesome DeFi apps, but it's in a very controlled manner. And there are certain limitations because Argent wallet will only let you do so much with some of those apps. But once you go deeper, it's like if you take on more risk, you got to learn a bit more. So it's an interesting like time we're living through, because I think that we're still so early, and for many, if you've been around even a few years, it doesn't feel early anymore because you've been around a few years. But in fact, most of the planet doesn't know how to use decentralized finance or peer-to-peer finance. Most of the planet doesn't have exposure to Ether or Bitcoin or any crypto assets.
Yeah, and you and I both, like, we're just talking to each other, and every day, I wake up and, God forbid I spend time with my family over the weekend, and I wake up Monday and I'm going, how much did I miss? What did I do? that all this is happening, and how long is it going to take for me to catch up? And then you talk to someone on the outside of the echo chamber, and they have no idea what we're talking about. It is a totally foreign language. And you go, okay, 99.999% of people still are not here yet. And that's probably okay, because imagine how much more money could be lost potentially. So we kind of have to perfect it. Like, we have to get it better and safer, and figure out that, again, in the Harvest case, figure out the balancing act between admin keys and decentralization, and figuring out where the vulnerabilities are, because you can only run so many scenarios, and maybe someone who's looking for vulnerabilities is going to wait till there's $1 billion in there, and they can take $50 million, and it's kind of hard to notice, right? I mean, look, if I were hacking, and please, I have no idea how to do it, but I would wait till there's a whole lot of money and everyone kind of trusts it, and wait and go, I'm only going to take out like 10 million, because maybe it won't be as noticed. Maybe people won't try to find me. And what do I need more than 10 million for?
Yeah.
Right? I can, like, why am I going to take out $1 billion and everyone in the world is going to be looking for me? I'll take out a few million if I find a vulnerability, and I'll do it a little bit at a time, right? It's the Office Space thing, right? I'm just going to round, minuscule pieces of a cent until I have a few $1 million.
That's a good parallel.
Yeah, of course. I love bringing DeFi back to Office Space. It's perfect.
Do you ever wonder if we are seeing more adoption, or whether it's just the Twitter algorithm working better than ever to like keep us in our echo chamber, seeing more and more interesting people like talk about DeFi? I guess I'm not proposing that we're not seeing real adoption, but I definitely have like recently, like, I discard whatever I see on Twitter. I'm like, this doesn't matter. I spend too much time on it. And I know that I'm being fed probably what I want to see by the algorithm, versus when I talk to like random people, if I'm like going to Dunkin' Donuts or something like that, like I find that to be so much more interesting. Like I will be snapped back to reality by doing that as well, because they'll be like, what do you do? What do you work? What is that? But it's funny, because recently I ran into someone who did know all about Ethereum. He was probably about 60. He had no exposure to Bitcoin, and he was completely enthralled by Ethereum. And he's become a friend because I couldn't stop asking questions about it. And anyways, I guess that's what I'm trying to get to, is like, we need to like continually have conversations outside of the digital space, which is
And I had one of those. I was outside one day, and this guy walks by walking his dog and has an Ethereum shirt on.
Oh,
and
no!
I got excited. Like, my world stopped. I can't believe someone's walking by my house with a shirt, and turns out he's an Ethereum miner. Right. So now we have this great relationship. Every time we talk, our wives are like, can you guys just not see each other on our watch? Because all you guys, you just use these words that we don't understand. And then it turns out my neighbor is a big crypto guy that we did for 6 months. We didn't even know, because we don't, you don't tell people, right? You want to sure like conversation stopper. It's like, hey, I love crypto. They're like, oh yeah, I don't want your drugs here. Right. So
yeah, exactly.
Where I think we're getting more adoption, right? It's less on the yield, because you've seen me tweet it more times than not. Yield can't be the use case. Okay. This is an economic system. And the whole idea of the economic system is to get money to its most efficient use. And a lot of times its most efficient use is someone who's a good business person, a good manager, a good real estate person, whatever, borrowing money or getting investment or something. So I know, I talked to a project that the guy is actually in Dubai right now, talking to family offices about security tokens for real estate and doing it on Ethereum. Well, this is a lifetime real estate guy. That is adoption, right? When you're at a family office conference in Dubai talking about using security tokens to invest in real estate, or to denote real estate investment, that is adoption. And when that money comes in, and they're using Ethereum for the tokens, they're not using other chain. Tokens are on Ethereum. I've had conversations with them about wallets and everything else, and how they're going to use it. But that is adoption, because that is people from totally outside of our little echo chamber bringing their money in, probably hundreds of millions at a time, and then they're going to have to learn how to use it. And those are use cases where they're not going to be yield farming. They're not going to be jumping around to different protocols. They don't care about most of them. What they care about is, here's my real estate, and oh, now I have this added feature of it has more liquidity and I can get a loan against it. Okay. I joked last week, I've read three fiction books in a row, just crappy books that I read, in the middle of the night when I can't sleep. The last three of them have mentioned cryptocurrency. Now, it's usually the bad guy using cryptocurrency to, hide money. But the fact that they went into like a 3-page explanation about it kind of makes me go, okay, we're getting closer. We're getting closer to real adoption, right?
Yeah.
When the casual person is writing about it.
Well, some of the things that you've called out today that I love to dive into is just understanding how powerful some of the most basic fundamental use cases are. Like, for example, I have a friend who's a web designer, or he's a designer in general, and he designed a logo. It says like DeFi tutorials with DeFi Dad. At the time, so he's a United States citizen, but he was actually working during COVID, part of the time in Mexico. He went down and like took up an Airbnb, and I was able to pay him in DAI. And it was just, it's one of those things that, you get past all of the more complex use cases, like some of the more complex yield farming strategies. And I'm like, this is awesome. I wouldn't be able to pay him otherwise. I would have no way of getting him those funds in real time. And he actually, at the time, I think he had said, like, this is one of the first times he's very into the Ethereum space, but it was one of the first times he got paid in DAI. And he was, we were kind of laughing. He's like, there's no way I would want to get paid any other way now, because this is just so freaking easy to use.
Exactly. I have 3 different contractors I use that I pay in some sort of cryptocurrency because they're elsewhere in the world, and it's just so much easier.
It works. It's just
so much easier. Yeah, I have it in the wallet, and I can go ahead and spend it. But now what you're going to have to get to is, if businesses start doing that, well, now they're going to have help managing their treasury of cryptocurrency, right? And you go, okay, I have X number of payments to this person monthly or quarterly or whatever. I'm going to have to manage my crypto to the point that I have money in there to pay them. And it's no longer a speculative deal. It's, I need to have it in a certain crypto. I can't afford for this to go down 20%. What am I going to do? Am I going to hold it in a stable coin? Am I going to put it in a liquidity pool, right? Where yes, it might go down in value, but I'm earning on top of that. Am I going to, obviously wrap some sort of smart contract coverage around it? And that need is going to be there. That's so interesting to me, that we're going to have those kinds of needs of actually spending it, of actually utilizing it as part of your business.
Yeah. Right? Well, even like those needs are already potentially met with what's been built in the market. Like Gnosis Safe is something that it's used by a lot of protocol teams as a multi-sig, and it's because most of them have some sum of money, and that could be used to be paying some core team of developers. That's very that's a use case that you're essentially creating a digital treasury, and then you've got multiple signers. That's what in case there's a lot of people, I think, who don't know what a multi-sig is, but it just means that if we were going to send money to a contractor, it's possible that we could say it requires 2 of us or more to sign this transaction. And that's powerful because it prevents, it just ensures that a team can like trust one another without actually trusting each other with those multiple signatures. I wanted to bring it back though too. I've got a question for you, more going back to what you do for clients. Can you talk to me about what are some of the common practices that your clients are following in terms of gaining exposure to the DeFi markets?
Some common practices. Well, one is, of course, the education, right? That's number one. Yes. Number 2 is, okay, you've gotten a little educated. Now go try a little bit. Go see what it's like to buy cryptocurrency and to send it. That's the biggest deal. Send a little bit of it. Make sure you get that wallet address has to be completely correct. You can't send Bitcoin to an ETH wallet. You can send DAI to an ETH wallet. Like those little things of actually going through the motions of learning how to send, and then try out a protocol. Like try something simple like Compound. Put your money in and see what happens. See that there's a little bit more in there tomorrow than there was yesterday. Right? Like that. Those are little iterations that you have to learn. You mentioned multi-sig. Realize that what you're doing when you actually sign into a wallet and then sign a transaction, understand what that means and how important that is. Yeah. Right. And some, we probably, a lot of us use MetaMask quite a bit, but if you try using other wallets like a Ledger or like a Trust wallet or something, again, not to promote anyone, they're just, like you, I've tried them all, right? Yeah. Whatever it is, but see how different those are, and you get comfortable with what works for you. And then you kind of learn as you go through what protocols make sense and how you're going to go through and which ones you use. Like if you go, okay, I want to lend money, I want to borrow money. So turn someone on maybe to something like Aave. And then they go to the site and they go, oh, wait a minute, I can deposit. What does deposit mean? Well, deposit is like you're putting your money in, I don't want to say the bank because it's not like that, but you can put, choose these cryptocurrencies and it's telling you what you'll earn. Well, why am I earning that? You're earning it because on the other end, someone wants to borrow it, right? And so that is I guess, kind of what you asked, but the biggest part is the iterating through learning all the different pieces of DeFi. And then you start to get more they start to get more comfortable with trying another protocol or trying some other way, if I go, okay, now you're ready to go to Zapper and you're ready to do two things at a time. Right. And it's a more complex strategy, which is how Zapper started, right? Which is like, I can have the same exposure to ETH by getting a 2x ETH derivative plus some sort of entry into a liquidity pool to where I'm earning some sort of income. And I go, look, we don't have anything like this in the traditional finance world. You only get this here unless you're in some sort of crazy hedge fund. So, enjoy this, but let's iterate through and explain to you how it works, but we got to get the parts. And that means I have to understand moving funds around. That's the biggest deal, right? Being able to move, to send funds, move in and out of wallets, and therefore move in and out of protocols is the most basic. And then you start to build on top of that.
Yeah, I like those use cases you called out. If someone has exposure to, let's say, Bitcoin or Ether, and they've got something like a Coinbase or Binance account, that already puts them in a pretty special place. There aren't a lot of people in the world who do have that.
Right.
The DeFi, I think it helps to get to know something like MetaMask or Argent Wallet or gosh, there's so many. Monolith. It depends on what part of the world you're in, which ones are more popular. But to be able to self-custody that's a huge step. Then I like what you were calling out, lending and borrowing, like something like an Aave. Let me see if I have it here. I just think Aave is such a great place to learn how you can lend. Like I can go here to DAI, and I can actually we'll just go to deposit here, go to DAI, and then I could put in, let's say, as much as I have here. Lending that then lets me understand how I'm earning interest on it. And then once I do that, there's a little like switch that you can flip to say use as collateral. Then you can actually borrow against that. And you can end up seeing like what is the loan to value ratio. They really have done a great job of dummy proofing this stuff. And there's others too out there. Everyone's tried Compound and
look, here's one of the most important things to learn when we went through the DeFi, yield farming summer and where we are now. And then, a few weeks ago was NFTs, right? Is realizing even if you're heavily into DeFi or you're, novice and getting into it, you don't have to try everything. You don't have to try to earn on every single thing out there. Just like in the traditional finance world, you don't try to earn on every single asset or asset class or investment there is out there, because you don't need to. Go with what you feel comfortable with. And just because over here someone is making whatever ridiculous percentage they're making, understand they're taking a really big risk probably. And yeah, you might go, man, I wish I'd have done that. But if they lose their funds, you're going to go, man, I'm glad I didn't do that. Right? So get comfortable with what you're comfortable with. And if you don't, I'm not banging on anything. If you don't like NFTs and you don't get it, then don't invest in it.
Just stay away from it.
You don't have to be involved in everything. If you just like the lending and borrowing, do that. If you just want to go to Zapper and get in a few of those investments, just do that and just hang on and watch for a while until you feel comfortable. But just because you're in DeFi doesn't mean you have to be in all of DeFi.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm in the stock market, if I'm in the markets, like I can just be in a fund, or I can just be in a few stocks, and that's it. And that's all I care about. And because it's exhausting otherwise, it's 24/7.
Adam, what do you think of the indexes that are being created in DeFi? Like when we talk about these principles of, really these are principles that we're drawing upon from personal finance, where you remain a long-term investor. You are not actively trading. It's better to gain broad exposure to a market and just ride that market versus, what you were just describing, like trying to sell tops and buy bottoms. If it was easy, everyone would be rich, and the truth is very few can do that. So, I've really stuck to. If people looked at my real DeFi portfolio, like. They'd be like, wow, it's pretty simple. He's got a lot of stable coin exposure. I'm lending. I participate in other certain applications that are a little more complex, like Nexus. But for the most part, like I've seen numbers go sky high, but then I see them fall. And so it's like you can luck out, and if you just start buying tokens, you'll probably get lucky and something will shoot up. The question is whether you can get out of it while it's still up in value. And that's why I like these use cases you're calling out, like lending and earning with an asset that you're already holding. It could be volatile. Like if you have the Uni token, you can lend it on Compound. But if you already have it and you intend to be long in Uni, you might as well earn interest on it because you're already holding it, versus something with a stable coin is, it's easy because you can go in and out of it because it's a stable coin.
Yeah, and you mentioned the indexes that are coming out. I think that's really interesting, and it's probably not a bad place to go. It's someone going, okay, I want to get involved in several of the different DeFi tokens or DeFi protocols. I don't know which one to be into, and I kind of don't want to make that call. So I'll buy a basket of them. Why not? I buy a basket of the S&P 500, and that's someone else telling me which 500 equities to buy. So I think it's pretty cool because it allows people to invest that way. But just remember, have an idea of the underlying what you're investing in, what the ecosystem is about, because we still have to get more money to come into the ecosystem for it to grow in value. For Uni to have value, you have to have more people trading tokens, right? Which means they have to have a reason to trade them, short of they're moving up and down against each other. There has to be a reason, right? And maybe it's, you look at, okay, Aave, there's more lending going on around the world because people have these security tokens that they're using as collateral. Like all these things that have to play together to be able to have the value of everything go up. But eventually what we're going to have is this point where tokens don't always go up and down together, right? Eventually, hopefully, this is our hope, right? They move independently of each other based on their own merits. Like that would be great. If it would be great if they had negative correlation to each other, right? If like Aave is going up and Uni's going down or something, and we had some reason for it, that would be great because then we get real portfolio creation, right? Instead of, well, I'm all in. I can be all in on all of it or all out on all of it.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting 6 months from now, I think, for us to be able to judge how some of these indices or indexes, however you want to say it, how they've worked. Because I mean, one of the hard things about an index is knowing how to weight it, what exposure should you have. Like at the end of the day, it's either a small team or a community. In the case of PieDAO and the Index Co-op, those are two communities where they are they have actual, like, you know, they have a governance that can help decide what goes into the index, and that's powerful. But the question is does your community know enough to build an index that's going to be successful? And I think the answer is obvious. Like, we won't know until several months from now. Like, we've got, actually, I think the synthetic SDFi by Synthetics, I think that is the oldest one that we have now, and that one changed quite a bit over the summer. I think it's been around for maybe a year by now, but these are a number of them. The Token Sets DeFi Pulse Index, right. PowerPool has a governance index called Baby Index. PieDAO has DeFi plus L and S, and then there's SDFi. So those are all ones for folks to check out. But even these, like, I would like to see offerings like these become more accessible to newbies, because I think this is a great way for someone to gain exposure, potentially. But at the same time, like, I think based on the on-ramps that you and I are seeing with wallets like Argent, which just makes everything so freaking easy to use, and Dharma makes it so easy, I would imagine stable coins will continue to be a top use case. Like that, it's the thing about lending and then seeing that earn some interest overnight or instantly within a few seconds. Most of it paid out continuously, and you go, whoa, that's pretty cool.
And okay, so taking that a step further there, or several steps further, it's not even lending and seeing it grow. It's the, I can lend this to someone if I want to. I can pay with this somewhere else in the world. And then working through this, like, okay, I have ETH, and I think you and I texted about this at one point. I have ETH. I need to pay someone in USDC. Am I better off selling? Am I better off using that, depositing that and using it as collateral and borrowing? And what are the implications of that? And looking at it as true treasury and financial management, and not just how much can I earn? Right? It's what is the best course for me? It's no different than, am I better off if I have to buy something for my business? Am I better off borrowing the money or just paying cash? It's the same concepts and the same ideas, and those use cases that we build and that ability to help companies manage their funds is what's going to drive adoption, and therefore drive the value of all these, and drive tokens like SNX and Aave and Uni to have their own valuation, because they're going to have their own use cases, right? All of them are going to have their own metrics behind their value. So we're really careful to make sure that people understand getting into DeFi is not getting into always, I need to earn the best return. It is getting into, how am I going to use my money in a way that I don't always have to ask the banks and the government for permission to use my money?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the biggest use case. And I think we went through this iteration over the summer, especially, where it was all about the yield farming and how are we going to get the best returns. And maybe now that that's died down, we can get more of the, okay, how do we use this? How am I going to borrow against the assets I have to be able to pay some of my bills, or does that even make sense to do? And I need the management tools to help me understand, the analysis tools to help me understand how to do that.
Yeah.
That's really important. When people start really putting money into security tokens or represent real assets, but they're denoted on chain. But I mean, I know that Realty, I know they had done a proposal, I didn't see where it went, with Aave to be able to use some of the Realty tokens as collateral on Aave. That's a huge deal.
That'd be really cool.
Really big. I know you can use GUSD, the Gemini USD now, as collateral on Aave.
Yes.
I believe, right? So that's a big deal because that's outside money. And then you look, Gemini is going after RIAs, financial advisors like us to get more investment, to get more clients into Gemini. So now they can take that GUSD and use it as collateral in Aave. We're potentially growing, but you have to get the real use cases that go beyond just yield generation. When there are real use cases, then you really get to understand the value, the analytics behind the value of the different protocols and tokens. Then they have real value. When you understand how important an oracle might be, because they actually work out a deal with some large company. If Chainlink had a deal with Merck or something like that, or Maersk or whatever, to provide decentralized Oracle services to get off-chain data on-chain for supply chain, that's a big deal. That's something that people can wrap their heads around, right? When it's just getting ETH data onto another protocol, then you go, okay, you're still working within the same core group of people. You're working with the same core group of money. When you start getting outside money in there, now you explode, and now you can really start understanding the metrics of how these tokens can and should be valued.
Yeah, I think what you're describing, just with, like, let's say someone uses the Gemini US dollar, which is a stable coin, just to earn interest, or potentially what you were calling out with like realty, where realty tokenizes real estate. So you have a real world asset tokenized on Ethereum. If you can deposit your shares of that or your tokens in realty, REALT,
Right.
into Aave, well, now you can borrow against it. And that, like, I think that the average, I'll say at least in the United States, the average investor, I don't think thinks about these things and would be worried about this. It's mostly a savings rate and maybe having some exposure to the stock market. But that's because they haven't had access to these services in the past. And when you start letting people use their money how they will, or basically use their assets to be able to borrow against it, that's really powerful stuff. The most obvious example is homes. People take out, equity from their homes and they invest in, let's say, a renovation in their home. Well, suddenly if you can do more with that and go beyond just the renovation of a home, but you can do it without filling out all this paperwork and affecting your credit score. And this is stuff that it's a pain in the ass. And I mean, I can tell you, like, I've collateralized multiple assets. I've done it before with wrapped Bitcoin. I tokenized some Bitcoin. I used some Wi-Fi. I deposited some Link. And what was the other one? There's a fourth one in there. Anyways, I put in 4 different types of assets, one of them being Bitcoin that had been tokenized, and I borrowed against it. And it's nuts. It's nuts that you can do it, because I did it in about 30 minutes. Gas prices were pretty high at the time too, so it wasn't the easiest. Still, what I paid in network fees was nothing compared to the time and money I would have paid to do that elsewhere. So Adam, I want to make sure I don't keep you too much longer, but I guess, like, is there anything else though that's top of mind for you in terms of, like, what should we all be thinking about as we, continue to watch all of these developments in the DeFi markets? What's the stuff that we should be focused on? What's the noise to block out and the fundamentals to focus on?
A few things. One is keeping safe, right? Don't ever put all your eggs in one basket. All those common cliches. Keep your money really safe. Understand what you're doing. Of course, I'm going to talk about education because I like talking about education, and learning what you're doing and why is pretty important. We talked already about understanding and having the ability to go, I don't have to be in every single thing. Unless it's your job to be in it, unless it's your job to try out everything, which I know you do a lot of it. I do a lot of it. Just see how it works.
I don't try it with a lot. I try it with little amounts. I
know. Yeah, you try with little amounts, but if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. Like, if you don't want to get into decentralized art, then don't. Who cares if someone else is making money on it? Just don't do it. Or if you do want to, go, this is great. This is going to be my thing. I want to invest in this. So it's education, understanding what you're doing. It is understand the risks and don't take too much of it, and just contain yourself. You don't have to be in everything, and then start looking for what the real use cases are. Because after the PayPal announcement last week, which we could do a whole nother show on, because I've been kind of vehemently against it, against why it's good.
You got to tell me about that before you go. Why are you against it? For anyone that
look, I could be totally wrong about this, but I took an extra day. Ron and I went through it, and I said, look, I'm not going to respond to this today. We're going to take an extra day to really think about this, go into what PayPal announced that they were going to do, and the impact that it might have. And I'm sure what everyone's seen, and I'll reiterate it here. All PayPal said is, in your PayPal wallet, you can buy and sell crypto. And I believe it's 4 tokens to start with. It's Bitcoin, ETH, Bitcoin Cash, and Litecoin, right? You can buy them in your PayPal wallet. You cannot transfer them out. You can use them to pay for things via PayPal eventually, I think early next year. Mm-hmm. But the person on the receiving end is going to get fiat currency.
That's right. Yeah.
So PayPal they're not, I'm not sending someone else Bitcoin. I'm using Bitcoin or I'm using ETH that I have already in my PayPal wallet that I can't put more in there from outside. I have to buy it there and sending it. They are essentially, it's like they acquired crypto as a company and are killing it, because that is exactly what crypto was designed to do. That is what DeFi was designed to do. And they're saying, we're going to take you, we're going to put you into our system, and then you got to play in our system. And you're using the PayPal rails. Technically, PayPal does not have to own a single cryptocurrency to make it all work. Not a one, right? So how is this at all helping? If you're a purist, if you're a DeFi purist, a crypto purist, whatever, I can't see where it helps. I can only see where it hurts, unless there's something more coming. And we think that there's something more coming. We think that they're going to get more heavily into it. But it's like they saw a competitor and they said, we can just snatch up this competitor. Imagine this, if Amazon did this and Amazon said, we're going to let you pay for things with crypto, but you have to buy it in your Amazon wallet. You can't transfer it in. You can't transfer it out. You have to buy it in here. Everyone would be up in arms and say, this is the worst thing ever. We can't believe Amazon's trying to take over crypto. But for some reason, PayPal does it and it's perfectly okay, because they're already into transferring money around the world. But you're not transferring Bitcoin or ETH or anything else. You're just moving accounts within Bitcoin, within PayPal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, technically, they don't have to own a single cryptocurrency. They have become the world's largest stable coin if they do this. That's all they are. PayPal is now a stable coin. They're doing what Libra was intended to do, but they're doing it all on their own. And they were one of the founding members of Libra. Yeah. Right? So it's that's why I'm kind of against it, but it brings more potential adoption. It brings more people talking about it. And eventually, if they do give you the means to be able to transfer your tokens out and actually use it, now what you have especially what I said for financial advisors is, you at least have to start having this conversation of, I own this asset, but I can also use it to pay for something, right? I've never been able to pay for anything with Apple stock before. Imagine I can do that. Now it's a whole different financial discussion with your advisor. It's a whole different look at your assets. If I can pay for stuff with the things I'm holding to try to earn money, that's an odd concept, right?
Yeah. So am I right to say, I think you summarized this really well in terms of like the pros and cons. If I have a PayPal account, I'll be able to buy Bitcoin or Ether, and that does potentially put more buying pressure on these assets, which I think at the end of the day, that's what a lot of people got excited about. Like there's also the potential for more people to learn what is Bitcoin or Ether, and go down the rabbit hole and maybe come out wanting more, which because we've all lived that journey, like I think there's a fair assumption there that some folks are going to get more drawn into our space. But like you were calling out, the drawback to this is, if let's say I buy first day I buy 1 Ether, that Ether stays in my wallet. If it goes up and down in value, I'm still affected by that. If it falls in value, I guess that's not good. If it goes up, that's good. I have more buying power. But at the end of the day, like if I want to get that value out, I'm going to have to sell it within PayPal, or use it to buy things. And so I just don't have the same freedom. Like, I'm not in control of my assets. It's, not your keys, not your Bitcoin, not your keys, not your Ether in this case, or Litecoin or Bitcoin Cash. So it is. I mean, I'm somewhere in the middle. Like, I like your take. I hadn't thought as much about the drawback to it, because my assumption most days is just that I will never be able to foresee all the variables that are coming, which I know you think about this as well, but just saying, like, I'm so accepting of this that I just know so little of what's coming that I'm like, I mean, I guess like that's more people exposed to this. And I don't know if PayPal will loosen up those restrictions. I would love to see them do it because of what you're calling out. I think, what PayPal is doing goes against the ethos of DeFi. It goes against the ethos of Ethereum, Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, like right. I'll say, like, the Bitcoin community, I think, is very focused on just getting the brand name out there. As long as it's Bitcoin and number go up, everyone's happy. And I'm not scrutinizing them for that. I'm just saying, like, that's my impression. As long as Bitcoin is king and it has buying pressure on it, they're going to be happy. As opposed to my focus on DeFi is I do think you need to stick to peer-to-peer finance, and also that you need to truly have decentralized applications, which is why I think many of us have had criticisms of certain applications on Ethereum and said, well, this team is charading around like they're a DeFi app, but they're not. They're holding the admin keys. It's not good.
Yeah, and again, there's a balancing act there, right? Because do you really want, and people will probably kill me about this, right? But do you really want total decentralization? Can we really handle that? Because it's just hard to know what's going to happen there. At some point, I think you can have some sort of medium there where you go, okay, we have more decentralization, we have more participation, because when you look at it, one of the hallmarks of the early days of I say early days, like it was so long ago, the early days, like 3 years ago, of crypto, Bitcoin, DeFi, was more participation, right? You can get the proverbial farmer in India or Africa or wherever to participate because it's such small amounts. I can let them borrow money and it doesn't cost me more than I'm letting them borrow to do it, right? And then you add insurance on top of it and get crop insurance and get paid on it because you have decentralized oracles and everything. But you still need some levels of safety and security, right? You still need throats to choke sometimes. You can't have everything be anonymous. You can't have everything be totally decentralized. And the horrible part of it is, part of that reason is because people are inherently kind of selfish, and they're going to figure out ways to game the system. And the reason why we have so much regulation around the current financial system is because of that. Because if people were naturally really good to each other and really nice and okay, we wouldn't need so much regulation. We would need regulation because inherently people are pretty selfish. And so in the decentralized world, even, we can't just completely leave it up to the code. Like, there has to be some give and take here. But in a decentralized world, we can still add participation. We can still add more people to the system that didn't have access before because they always had to go through a bank or through a government, and now they don't. And we always had to do it in dollar increments, and maybe doing it in dollar increments and going over the SWIFT system is too expensive for someone who doesn't need that much money.
Right.
I mean, that's what we're having here, and you kind of iterate through that, and again, part of my problem with going all the way back to PayPal is, if this is the way most people get involved, if you all of a sudden have twice as many people in crypto because they bought it on PayPal, where's the incentive for PayPal to start letting people take their money out, right? Now they've got you. Like, now they've got everyone. What incentive do they have? They're making fees right and left now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they can probably charge extra fees because they're like, oh, well, you're trading out Bitcoin. We're going to charge you extra for that. Well, technically, you're not. Like, there's no Bitcoin wallet there. They don't even need it. All they need to do is hedge against it outside. Right. So that's my worry is you're going to take this idea of more participation and you're going to wrap something like PayPal around it, and then you're not going to let people out again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, it's like they acquired crypto and now they're not actually using the technology. They just wanted the name. I used the Tommy Boy line the other day, right? It's Zelensky buying Callahan Auto.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there might be more coming. Like, we have to figure out, does PayPal have more coming? But on its surface, if this were Amazon, if this were Apple, if this were Facebook, people would be in crypto, would be up in arms. But some reason they're not. And I mean, I think it's just like, oh, PayPal plus crypto, it totally makes sense. They're accepting crypto, but they're not. I can't connect my wallet and pay for something.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of anyone else I saw who was quick to call this out. There's definitely criticism that's coming from the community. And like, I'm trying to think, like, if I had been in Bitcoin, let's say since like 2012, I haven't, but let's pretend I had. I'm trying to think like how I would react to this. And
the price of everything went up. Look, everyone was so excited because the price of everything went up the other day when this happened.
Oh my God! Yeah,
right. Everyone's exuberant. Like, finally, you know, on top of MicroStrategy and Square and JP Morgan and everyone else, now PayPal's in. Like, we're there, and the price shoots through the roof. Well, today it's down. So now let's see what happens. Now let's see where we go. When you have this realization of, you know what, PayPal doesn't have to buy a single Bitcoin to make it work, not one.
Adam, what did we do while we were on the call here? It looks like prices didn't drop, I guess, too much, but Bitcoin fell like 1%, Ether fell about 5%. Some of the others fell like, I don't know, 10, 20%. I mean,
they're following the rest of the markets, right?
Yeah. What did we do? Did we say something on here to upset us?
Well, yeah. I try not to follow. The S&P is down significantly. That's probably why. It's a liquidity.
Oh, that's totally it. So that is something, I guess, again, I could just go on and on about this. So the S&P 500's down 2.71% today.
Okay.
When you look at the summer, and you talk about the DeFi summer, and I would say Bitcoin was still kind of up in the summer, I think, a little bit flatter, obviously. I mean, the stock market had been raging. And then you get to September, and when we talk about the markets drawing down, it hit me the other day. I finally like went and looked and was like, Jesus, it almost follows it to a T, follows the drawdown in stocks. So and this is once again, I find myself always like surprised. I go back and I look and I go, whoa, it's a bloody day in the stock market. And of course it's affecting the crypto markets. So I don't know. I guess it's just those sorts of like reality checks at times to remind yourself while we're all trying to like rationalize it. I think it's way more important to like study and learn how these DeFi mechanisms work, why peer-to-peer finance, just like, you know, peer-to-peer transfer of value with like a Bitcoin and Ether and now stable coins and everything on Ethereum. These things are really, really important to understand while we're still early, because following the prices up and down doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Versus, I had Akin Sawyer on Friday, who's worked across the Decred community. He's really into Barnbridge now, and he's got a really strong background in finance. He worked at the IMF at one point. He was talking to me about his family. He grew up part of his life in Nigeria, and he was saying, you know, you have people in the United States especially that talk about the volatility of Bitcoin or Ether or the crypto markets. And he's like, when you're living through 25% inflation on average year over year for many years in a row, and that's par for the course with some other African nations, he's like, when you look at the volatility in crypto, it's nothing. You start to say, well, that's a hell of a lot better picture than what I'm living through. And so, it's just important to zoom out and sort of, take in as much context as possible and not like jump to conclusions because the markets fell here today with the stock market.
Right. Which is, I don't even know. I haven't followed the news today. Earlier today, it was a COVID related thing that our numbers keep going up and maybe there's going to be more lockdowns and it's going to affect the economy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know, in the long term, we'll be in a certain position. Everyone's got to figure out where they are right now. So I know a lot of sell-offs in this case are liquidity based, right? I mean, I can get out of crypto 24/7 and have cash faster than I can get out of anything else, faster than I can get out of stocks or anything. So the one that happened, the sell-off that happened in March was very liquidity based, right? People in the world going, we don't know what this is. We don't know what these lockdowns are going to cause. I need cash to pay for things. So I'm going to get out of my crypto because it's the fastest thing I can get out of.
Yeah.
I don't have to talk to my bank. And I don't have to talk to, I don't have to call my stockbroker. I don't have to do anything else. I can get out right now. So that's, a big part of it. So when you see, and then you go, okay, I have a big gain in it, right? I have a big gain in Bitcoin or a big gain in ETH in the last week. I'll get out of that. And even if it's less than it was 2 hours ago, it's still more than it was when I bought it. So at least I get out with a gain. I feel good about myself.
Yeah. Yeah, that is like the rationale. Like I've at least been through it before. Years ago, I mean, I feel like now I'm a lot more disciplined, but I can't even imagine the dumb things that went through my head in early 2018, after 2017, since I had convinced myself that I was like Warren Buffett, except I wasn't Warren Buffett because I was about to lose a ton of money. So
right.
That's how it all went.
Yeah.
Well, Adam, so great to see you, and just thanks for talking longer with me. Like there's just so much going on in this space, and that was thank you for talking me through the PayPal stuff as well.
Sure.
We
might be totally wrong about that, and I welcome anyone to chat with me about it. I would love to, because I threw it out there and I said I would welcome anyone to talk about it. And what I get a lot of is, we just need more adoption. It's just going to cause more people to talk about it, more adoption. And I said, okay, it's just, you're playing with fire a little bit, right? With a little fire going, our adoption is going to be through PayPal, who doesn't ever have to let you let it out of your wallet. So the hope is people adopt, they learn about it, and then they go, oh, wait, I don't want to do this within PayPal. I want to do this on my own. And they go learn about it and they do it on their own.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and then also too, it's like, there are certain folks who are willing to compromise and say this thing with PayPal is great, but then yet when you tokenize Bitcoin and you use it on Ethereum, it's not good. I'm like, come on, just have some consistency here. Like now DeFi is actually really good for Bitcoin. It's got I think we've got 2 billion or something in value that's locked up. That's great. And that is showing that Bitcoin can be a premier store of value used in DeFi that is built on Ethereum. And I tend to think that's not a bad thing. I mean, at least if you're going to connect the dots that having Bitcoin in a walled garden where you don't really ever own it, you can't transfer it out, you can't transfer it in with PayPal. If that's good, and Jesus Christ, tokenization of Bitcoin on Ethereum is incredible. So
it's great. And I hope people will, if they see this, I hope people will continue to build for the use cases, for the actual use of DeFi, of stable coins, of lending, of all those things, to be able to increase the participation. Because without security tokens and the collateralization of those and all that, we're not, the value just can't continue to go up, because you have to bring in new money. And the money can't all be, I want to invest in crypto. It's, I want to invest in real estate that happens to be denoted on a cryptographic blockchain.
That's right. That's right. It's making it that much easier just to use your money when you want to. Well, I just want to remind everyone you can learn more from Adam about DeFi if you go to interaxis.io. Make sure you follow Adam at Interaxis8 on Twitter. And yeah, man, we'd love to have you back sometime. Like, just thanks so much for your time. And we'll be back tomorrow with, I can't remember who our guest is tomorrow. Oh, that's right. We have Kyle Kistner from BZX. So we'll be talking all about BZX tomorrow and learning more there from really one of the most well-known names in DeFi. So Adam, anything else to share before I let you go?
Nothing else to share. I'm honored to be here, honored to be with you, and look forward to keeping this going and keeping all the growth we've seen already. It's just unbelievably interesting, and we're always happy to chat with people. Always happy to help educate them on really how it all works, the underpinnings of how it all works.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go to interaxis.io. It's part of the reason. Part of the reason we love having you on is I think you have a really you have your ear close to the ground where a lot of us don't in terms of legacy finance. So really appreciate getting your perspective. Sure. So thanks everyone. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.
All right.